Hello, America. It's Lonny Ray Williams. I'm the chairman of the Independent American Party. And I was elected in February, and it's been quite a challenge. This isn't necessarily something that I ever expected myself to do, but it's also taught me a lot about this country in that we're all suffering from a lot of the same types of challenges. Seems like we just want to raise our own children in our own ways, our own traditions, and our own faith without government overreach. And that's the same reason, of course, that our ancestors came to this country and fought for the liberty of this nation. It's becoming a more difficult fight, especially here in Washington State where we live, when when they make it really personal and and pretty much let you know that if you don't swallow their socialist Marxist agenda, then then they'll take your kids. That's the message that the legislators sent this last legislative session. And not only that, it's not bad enough that they'll attack the local Washington State residents. Um, they'll take your children across the country. And if your children don't like you, and some school counselor in Nebraska or Ohio State, or if that child happens to make their way through some bus voucher system, then law enforcement here will not let you know where your child is. They will stick your child in a homeless shelter and administer medical procedures without your consent. Um, this is just a small sample of what's going on across the country. The Washington State's not alone in this. Um, we have Second Amendment right issues that we're fighting, and we have Constitution issues across the board that we continue to fight. Many of you locally know that we're fairly engaged in fighting the Washington State legislature and testifying against their unconstitutional bills. And it's a struggle sometimes. I'll let my wife Leslie tell you a little bit about that. Go ahead, Les.
Okay. So I am a member of Conservative Ladies of Washington, soon to be Conservative Ladies of America. Um, this session, we had a team that every day would be going through the new bills, trying to get through the Washington state legislation. We would read them, testify for or against them. Um, we did calls to action. We got people to join in and to say whether they agree or not agree, trying to get the people's voice back um, into the legislature and make sure that they understand that we are here and they are to listen to us. We did really well. We didn't win as many as we wanted, but I think from what I hear is because of Conservative Ladies of Washington, we made sure the legislation knew that they were being watched. And that's the most important thing, is to make sure that we are involved.
In a lot of the cases where there were citizens signing up to testify, there were 20 to 1 against these bills, and the legislators went ahead and passed some of these bills anyway, and they're just terrible bills that take away a lot of liberty, um, take away the individual's right to control their own finances and their own lives, in a lot of respects, their own children's lives. Um, but yet the individuals that vote for them vote across the aisle on both sides of the party, both the Republicans and the Democrats. And in this state, it's more of a uniparty. It's tragic the amount of Republicans who vote for unconstitutional bills. And it's not just in Washington State. I hear from you guys across the country. We've got some tremendous fighters right now, like Paul Riano over in Rhode Island, and he's doing a really great job right now. And he tells me a lot about how you guys are suffering over there through the same process. They're trying to take away your rights to live your life, and we need to stand together. It's one of the things you're going to notice about our organization is we hate the word party. We you know what it we you know what it is our organization and who we are, but we pay attention to history. We've read George Washington's farewell address. We know the party system is the bane of the existence on this country, but yeah, that's the system that we have to operate under right now. And it's pretty impossible for independent parties, third parties, to break the mold and the lock that the uniparty, the Republican and Democrats, have on not only Washington State but across the country. In Washington State, I think that third parties have better chance than most states, because in our state here, you don't when you sign up to run for office, you just declare what what political party you identify with. So it could be the Donald Duck Party for all, and that's what you identify as. And it's a top two primary. So as long as you're the top two in the primary, then you go on to the general. And that means you could have two Republicans, you could have two Democrats, you can have two independents. And that opens it up for any people, regardless of party or no party at all, to compete on an even playing field. And I think that's one of the few things that's really good about the voting system here in Washington is it allows for independents and non-affiliated third parties even to to come on and actually run and have a chance at making it. Now the establishment has a hold on financing and a lot of of other systems that make it difficult, but at least here, if you have a good ground team and good support, you can make a run out of it, and you can challenge the corrupt establishment and point to all that is evil into the world, and have a fair shake at it. One of the things that we'd like to do is try and push that this goes out throughout the nation, that third parties, independents, people unaffiliated with any party at all, have a fair shake in the election system. Right now, we have a cabal of the Democrats and the Republicans who have this grand anointing system that you have to go through the county chairs and everything else just to get these endorsements, or you got to kiss the ring, so to speak. And by the time you get to run, you're so hampered. You don't have the support you need, and unless you commit to say, hey, I'll do whatever the party wants, you don't have a fair shake. They don't want true representatives. They don't want people who represent the voice of the people and who will vote the way that the people want them to vote. And it's all about power and holding on to that power. And so that's pretty much the gist of it. What we've been doing lately is we've been growing a lot in it took quite a while to get a hold of the or get a handle on the party. First off, for those who don't know, a couple of years ago, a couple of the key founders and leadership in the team died within about a month of each other, and it took a while to figure out where everything was, and we're still in the process of that. But with the leadership change in February, we have our feet underneath us. We have a fair assessment that we've conducted over the past couple of months. We're bringing in new people. We're finally catching up to things that weren't done in a while. We're making some exciting changes. We have a brand new website that is in the process of being built as we speak. A lot of new
There's Paul.
programs. What's that?
There's Paul.
Hey, hi, Paul. Howdy, how's it going? Welcome, Paul. We were just talking about you over there in Rhode Island and how all the wonderful things that you're doing out there. And we appreciate the patriotism and your support and everything that the good people in Rhode Island are doing. And We need more patriots. This is, I got to tell you, this is a fantastic opportunity, not only for this country, but for this party, because as an organization, we have the opportunity to create an organization that is not top run, but is run truly by the people. And what we're doing is reorganizing into an organization that operates just like our founding fathers did under the First Amendment. There other world around them, and not be constrained to this idea of party or just getting somebody elected. I mean, if that's all we're focused on, then we're certainly not focused on the right things. It's not about getting somebody elected, because by and large we haven't had civics classes in this country for decades. There's entire generations who don't understand that their obligation to preserve their freedoms is to go to their town hall meetings, to go to their county commissioner meetings, their hospital board meetings, all the boring things that none of us want to do, but we need to hold our government officials accountable. We need to challenge them. We need to represent our voice and say, look, this, we're not for this, or we are for this, or here's our concerns. And when things are not constitutional, we need to point that out on the local level. We need to train our local officials on what is constitutional and what is not constitutional. We need to give them the references to our historical founding fathers quotes and the doctrine of the time that led them to make the decisions they did, because we don't teach that anymore. And if we don't do that on the local level, well, the local politicians end up being your statewide politicians, and those statewide politicians end up being your federal politicians, and so on and so forth. And if you don't even get involved on a local level, there's not a chance in heck that you can turn things around on a federal level or a wider level. So we're all about focusing on the individual member and empowering them to be everything that God created them to be, the best version of themselves to be. And I'm not about gatekeepers and people who stand in other people's way, and we try to minimize that, to allow people to stand up for their liberty and stand up for their rights. And essentially, that's the new direction that we're trying to take. And I'll let my wife speak for a little bit, and what are some of the challenges that you've seen along the way that you didn't anticipate, and a lot of maybe the glimmers of hope where you're seeing those now. Put you on the spot.
Right. Well, restarting this party from nothing was really hard. Trying to get access to everything, the social media, to all of the documents, which I don't think we even have all of them still. Anything to tell us how the party has been running or had been running has been really difficult. But with us deciding to make some changes, puts the party back in the hands of the people, which I actually am very excited about. We have been Republican for our whole life, and never once had I had a PCO or a representative or anybody to come to talk to me personally and ask me how I wanted them to vote, how I felt about an issue. It was always, well, they were elected, the PCO was elected, or the representative was elected, so we have to just deal with how they voted. And recently, since Lonny ran for office, that's been more prominent in my life, that I demand that my voice be heard. And so with us making these changes, the members themselves, not the PCOs, not the representatives, not the chairman, members have the voice. The members get to decide what they want. The members get to decide how they want this organization to go forward. And then we getting involved, um, because I was so involved with Conservative Ladies of Washington, getting our members involved with the legislation process to show the state, the country, that independents are the voice. We aren't Democrats, we aren't Republicans, we're the people in the middle that are sick of what's happening on the Democrat side and the Republican side. We want our voice. So this is exciting for me. A lot of growing pains will come with this. Most people aren't used to this new process. Most people aren't used to having a say. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but I'm very excited about it.
I'm pretty excited. I didn't necessarily understand the possibilities of operating the way our founding fathers did, and until I started. Obviously, I write about history. We have the our monthly publication, the pamphlet. So we teach about our founding fathers, their values and history. And so I had an inkling of the values and how they operated amongst themselves, and they were dignified. They conducted themselves respectfully, and certainly they disagreed. Certainly they didn't agree on many things. Across the 13 colonies, you had 13 colonies that at times hated each other because they had their own identity that they were trying to promote, that they were really attached to for many reasons. Um, but ultimately, people came together over the idea of liberty and freedom. They came together over the idea that they had many differences, and that was okay. And that's what I did not find in any of the parties out there. And what I found was a lot of organizations that have chairmen and big fancy titles and kingmakers is what they are. And you do things my way or the highway, or you hear phrases like you don't understand the way things work around here. Um, it's protectionism. And what they don't understand is they don't understand the way our country's supposed to work. Our country is supposed to be one where every single one of us, you, me, your neighbor, even the neighbors that annoy you as much as the ones that make you happy, they have a voice. We all have a voice. And here's the deal: if you don't have the power or the authority to tell your neighbor to sit down, shut up, don't go outside, mask up, put this in, and guess what? Government doesn't have the power and authority to do that, because anyone who understands our not only our founding traditions but our founding documents understands that our political power in this nation comes from the people. So if we don't have the power to tell someone to do something, then government can't usurp that power. That's a really simple, basic fundamental. But yet you look around and government is telling everybody what to do consistently and not even thinking about it. You have people on both sides of the aisle, Democrat and Republicans, saying, apple pie and freedom and liberty, and wave them a flag and saying they're going to fight for you. But they don't even have a clue about what defending a constitutional right is all about. The number one, I guess, mandate of all of our representatives that we elect as public servants in any capacity is to preserve and protect our rights. These liberties were achieved through great conflict. People were pushed through great years and layers of tyranny. They were taxed into oblivion. They were told what they could make, what they couldn't make. They were told where they could buy things from. They were not listened to. Sounds a lot like the life that we're living now. I think you'll find if you actually read about our history and not the fictitious 1619 project and all that garbage, that propaganda that is out there, you'll actually find that our founding fathers were some pretty enlightened individuals. You'll actually also find that they spoke, wrote, and thought in a way that most of us lack the intellectual capacity to even grasp right now. And that's a truth. There's about 17% of our population right now that can comprehend Common Sense, written by Thomas Paine in 1776. If you haven't heard about that document, that single pamphlet there is why our country came into being. And it speaks about who we are as a nation, our founding principles. Many people don't understand that when the Lexington and Concord happened, we were thrust, the 13 colonies were thrust into a period of, well, what had just happened? They didn't understand that they were in some sort of civil war at the time. And when it finally sunk in that they weren't subject to the king anymore, they scrambled together to put together their governments. I know this is at least the case in Maryland and Virginia, and their first documents were based on principles of rights. So they declared what their rights were. A lot of our founding fathers didn't want um, a lot of our founding fathers did not sign the Constitution or support the Constitution because it was not based on a foundation of rights. The compromise was to put the Bill of Rights in there after the fact to make sure that these rights were enshrined. Now, many individuals will argue, well, they understood the rights and putting them in there was a mistake, but yet these amendments are what our Supreme Court argues on and bases much of our rights today. Because back then they held these truths to be self-evident. That a man was a man, a woman was a woman, that people fell in love to have a family, to create something, to move on with life. Death was a very common thing, and you had people who would go through several wives or husbands just to preserve the family unit because people understood the family unit meant survival. So the perspective of people back then was completely different, but yet fundamentally they were facing the same arguments that we do today. We just want to live our lives in our own ways, in our own culture and religion, without the government telling us what to do. And nowadays we don't have that. Even in so-called red states, you have legislators and governments passing laws that are wholly unconstitutional, absolutely legislating morality when they shouldn't be. We must protect moral people, but you can't legislate morality. Because what you do is you set up the possibility for other legislators to come in and legislate their own version of twisted morality. And if you don't understand these basic truths of liberty, that people were meant to have their own liberty and live their lives in their own ways with their own traditions and stay in their own lanes. And the only role of the government was to preserve those lanes and make sure that everyone had their rights, then you don't understand the foundation of our government. And that's what the Independent American Party, that's what we're standing for, is to go back to those values. It's not just about getting somebody elected. Absolutely, it's getting somebody elected. But in the end, principled people running for the same position, in the same county, in the same office, then in my book, we give them the vote of principled people, and the people decide. Well, look, we certify them as principled, so that's good enough for us, because that's the way the founding fathers wanted it. And we need to get our parties out of the business of picking candidates, because that's what's wrong with this nation. You have parties picking candidates instead of the people picking candidates. And they've created a system to where people are programmed to vote R, people are programmed to vote D, and that's what they stick to it. I've talked to people who are leaving their parties, both on the left and the right, and in a lot of cases, it's like, well, my mom said you're going to vote this way, and that's just the way it is, and you don't ever vote any other way, and so that's the way I've been voting, and I've been supporting everything, and I've been a good patriotic American. But they don't understand that they've been voting for the lesser of two evils. And they're okay with that. You know, it's like, well, it's better than the other guy. Now I'm a Christian, and I believe in God, and in my opinion, when I get up there and the hereafter, God's going to be looking at me, and he's not going to say congratulations on voting for the lesser of two evils. No, I mean, he's going to say congratulations on voting for the underdog that was really the best choice. Those are the actions that I'm going to be held accountable of. I didn't always understand that line of thinking, and I think when we're all young, we do stupid things, and we have growing pains as we wrap our minds around that. But the older I get, the more I realize how dumb I've been in different periods of time in my life, and I think that's the case in politics as well. Got anything you want to say?
Mm,
Excuse me.
no, there's a, I don't know, Khalid Muhammad put a question mark, so I don't know what he meant by that. I asked if he wanted to ask something, but he hasn't replied. So
Okay.
whoever that is, but no, I mean,
Okay. Well, stay tuned. We have lots more to come. This is our first live. I'm fairly new at these things. I'm obviously we're just normal people, and that's what our party is made up of. We I have a small little hobby homestead, and we try and raise our own meat in our own garden, and take care of our family and encourage others to do that. And that's the lifestyle we live, and everybody that comes to this party comes in their own clothes and their own culture and their own way. But what binds us together are principles of good government and the founding principles of this nation, treating people with liberty and dignity and respect, and upholding the values of freedom. That's about it. If you want to get in touch with us, please reach out. Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for watching the live. And for those who will watch it later, thanks. Go ahead and leave us a message or reach out to us directly, as most people do. And we look forward to talking with you then.
we have the website independentamericanparty.org. We are in the middle of remaking that. So the one that's there right now is our current one, old one, temporary one. But you can hopefully by the end of the month we'll have the new one up, and the whole reorganization will be there.
You can still reach out through the existing website. It's still fully functional and reaching out. You can, but anyway.
Obviously through YouTube here, Facebook, and our email, Independent American Party at protonmail.com. Or you can always just give us a call. Unfortunately, I don't remember what the number is right now, but it's on our pages. So reach out to us if you have any questions. We're here. Lonny makes it a point to make sure that he's available.
And I've talked to many of you, and I thank you for those who have reached out. And there have been many of you who have reached out who are running for office, want to run for office, want to get involved, and we are getting back to you as quickly as we possibly can, and we're bringing new individuals on board.
So Khalid asked, why only two party, not three or four?
Well, and that's been the challenge in this nation for a long time. Is two parties have dominated, and in the beginning, our founding fathers didn't have any political parties. They were against them. They were against them. They did not like what the Whigs and the Tories had done, and the effect that Parliament and the King had upon them, and created the tyranny that caused them to ultimately rebel. And we actually are on our second government. We don't talk about that a lot, but at first we had a government, and our first constitution was called the Articles of Confederation and Perpetual Union. Now that government was actually meant to be our permanent government. My one of my ancestors, Thomas McKean, was the second president of that Congress, which was our government at that point in time. So they had a different view on a lot of our history, and it's important to know that period of time and the thought process of the founding fathers and what brought us our second government, which is controlled by I guess the Constitution is the supreme law of the land under our current organization. So when that happened, half of the founding fathers, the anti-federalists, said we want to keep our go with the new system that grants more power to the federal government. The anti-federalist arguments, in a nutshell, were as well: if you give more power to the federal government, ultimately it will metastasize and become corrupt, just like the government that we just threw off did. I tend to believe that the anti-federalists were right in that that's exactly what happened. But nonetheless, the anti-federalists and the federalists became our first political parties, and we ended up with a party system, which George Washington, our first president under this government, he gave his farewell address and he warned that the political party system would actually destroy the republic. And he was right. And what happens is you end up with political parties that hold power rather than individuals. The first people who were elected to office weren't paid. They were respectable gentlemen that were expected to support themselves, and they were just common average everyday farmers or bookkeepers or cobblers or winemakers, jewelry makers. They were just common average everyday people that served a portion of their time. They were elected by the people to represent what those people wanted. And our founding fathers did their best version to recreate that system, and they figured that that worked best when there was no parties involved. You were only voting for an individual based on, will they represent me? We've gone a long way from that system. But there still has been two dominant parties in our nation's histories. On occasion, around the Civil War, there was a period where there was three parties, and the Democrat Republican Party is split, and to the Republican and Democrat Party, and we had our own Whig Party for a while, and that went away. So there have been changes
recently. I mean, it's been years, but there was the Tea Party, and that one got thrown out.
Swallowed up by the Republican Party.
Yeah, the two parties right now are make it. They're the ones that make the laws. They're the ones that make the rules, and they made it very difficult for other parties to be able to stand up. So it's because of those two parties that we have a hard time getting anywhere.
And that's why we decided to reorganize for a large part as well, because if you limit yourself just to a simple party structure, then you have to, in all 50 states, they've passed these really difficult requirements to even establish as a party. In some states, it's like 50,000 signatures, and there's these really high bars every year, every 2 years that you have to do just to maintain this party status. And so what we've discovered is when instead of just focusing on getting people elected as a particular brand, we're going to make sure that we get people elected as strong patriotic independents across the country, but we're not limiting ourselves to that. We believe that education is primarily where we need to start, because people haven't been taught civics for a long time. They haven't taught their history. They don't understand the true rights that they have. This country has, and in a lot of states, they have really great constitutions that do not allow government to do the things that they're doing. And the challenge is that many people are just not involved right now. They're very apathetic. And so they sit home, as long as Domino's delivers, as long as Walmart is open, as long as the movies are doing, whatever it is that fuels their life, their entertainment, they're okay with just not raising a finger. I mean, human nature, we're all generally lazy. I mean, I'm lazy. I mean, you look around, and I mean, I have animals, I do a lot of things, but still, my human nature, we all want to sit around. And government or institutions or the system, life, whatever it is, has created this huge universe of easy things. From cradle to grave in America, at least for a while, you could exist and have ultimately super cheap everything. And now we're running into the end of that, where the dollar is collapsing, and we're gonna be looking at about a 15-year depression if we're lucky, and nobody knows what this looks like on the other end. that nobody's talking about this. We're all going to distract the whole country with many other things. But and typically the two-party system is convenient in that it keeps the people distracted while real issues are going on. We can have someone on the left fight someone on the right and have a big blowout, and we'll distract the people. For example, I found it very convenient that on the very same weekend that the current financial collapse started, we heard about indictments on Trump and Putin. So, that's just really convenient. But hey, let's distract the people with this. Let's not talk about the whole collapse of Western civilization because of their garbage banking practices. So there's a lot of things going on right now, and the two-party system is very convenient because it just divides the people. If you have multiple parties, the more parties you have, the more chance you have of decentralized control and at least stopping bad legislation. You can still have coalitions of bad actors that get together, but generally, when you have a people that don't have the moral values necessary to sustain that country or that system of values, it's better to decentralize power, and that's why our founding fathers were very um, big on decentralized power, checks and balances, uh, seven boundary system, things like that.
Hopefully that answers your
I
question.
know I went off the rails again. I always do that.
Lonnie does like to talk and talk, so well, I don't see any more. If anybody has anything to say before we
Sounds
go. But again, look us up, independentAmericanParty.org. Look what we stand on. Our 15 principles on the website is what we believe and what our moral characters are. So look us up, find out, see if we are something that you stand with. Join us if you feel that you want to be a part of us. We're building in every state. So we could use you if you want to work. We will put you to work, and we need your all of your help to build up this party and to take back the voice of the people.
And if you're worried about, I'm done with politics, I'm done with parties, I'm done with all that, then you're in the right place, because so are we. We're just common, average, everyday people that is looking to become more of a family of patriots, just band together, trying to stand up for these values that our founding fathers gave us, and stand up against the garbage propaganda that they're feeding everybody. The vast majority of Americans know that the stuff they feed us on TV is garbage, but yet we don't say anything. Excuse me, we don't do anything. And that time is over. The time to stand up is now. They're coming after our children. If you're not willing to stand up for them coming after our children and forcibly injecting them with chemicals and neutering them and all the crazy insanity that's going on, if you're not willing to do that, then, you know, where's your line that you're prepared to stand on?
Sorry, 1 second. The chimes are going off. All right, go ahead.
My wife's Bible app. It's God speaking. There's a scripture he wants us to read, I'm sure. All right. Well, that's about that. Thank you so much for your support, not only in the Independent American Party, but before that, and continuing with our monthly publication, The Pamphlet. It's an honor to write about our history, our founding values, and that's what we all need, is to understand what this country was founded on. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just need to listen to what our founding father, what the Lord's telling me and are telling you in your heart. But I certainly hope that you live up to what he asks you to do, because we need you right now. Your country needs you right now. And we certainly hope that you are on for this ride. It's a tough fight. It's a lonely fight. And there are days, look, I can always tell when something good is about ready to happen, because I have some seriously bad days. It's like this dark cloud that follows me around. And that's, this is a battle between good and evil. It really is. And when you stand for good, when you stand for common sense, when you stand against the stupidity of some of these ignorant, watch my mouth, when when you stand against that stupidity, not only do you get extremely blessed from the good side, but you also, you have people come against you. You have, your own, some cases, your own family. That's just where it is. The darkness, or whatever the heck it is, will always find the weakest link who's having a bad day to call you up and say you suck, and that's just part of it.
Quickly before we leave, Lonnie has been invited to Concord, Massachusetts on July 4th to speak. And
Oh
go ahead,
yeah,
tell about it.
oh boy, the Center for American Studies at Concord. Gentleman, my last name of Weeks. I'm terribly sorry, my memory's not quite the same, but he's invited me to speak with, along with some other, some other people who are trying to stand for liberty and freedom, and make a mark for independence, or at least people who are standing apart from the system. I think Tulsi Gabbard is online for speaking, as well as Robert F. Kennedy Jr., um, Kasich, a few others. I don't want to speak off of it, but so it's a great opportunity to get out there and stand up for our organization and to stand up for liberty. And we'll link the description to that somewhere down in the comment box later on after this video, after we get done with this video, and go from there.
We could use your help. Lonnie has a Give, Send, Go set up, and we really could use your help to raise that money for him to go. This is huge for the party, but it's also big for Lonnie because he's a historian, and this is at the place where the first shot happened for the Revolutionary War. This is huge. So we could use your help. So I will put the link there, but if you are willing to help, then please do. And also join the party again. Anyway.
Well, thanks again, and head right on over to www.theindependent-american-party. I probably should drop the in it. It's www.independent-american-party.org, and there you can find all of our contact information, and we look to see you there. And other than that, thank you very much, and God bless every one of you who are standing up for liberty and freedom. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.